Since January 2021, when it was first initially launched in its beta for waitlist, DALL-E came public around November of last year. But now I have some more interesting news for you, and that is that DALL-E is working with an experimental model, which is the V2 experimental. While I've been playing with it for a few, I have seen that it is an interesting model. Would it compare with other AI models? Well, for that, you would have to stick around for my next video, which is the AI Art Wars. Today, I'm just going to take you around and show you. So let's look at what DALL-E with version 2 experimental, or as people would say, DALL-E 3 stands up against DALL-E 2. And what are some of the things that we might expect? Also note, at the time of this recording of this video, this is still in an alpha stage and it is only given to a limited number of alpha testers. So I'm just testing this out to see what are the availabilities and what are the flaws or some features with the existing prompts for DALL-E 2. So with that in mind, let's just go with a prompt that I'm going to work with. I'm going to actually take directly the ones that we have over here, which is a 3D render of a cute tropical fish in an aquarium on a dark blue background, digital art. It's openly available, the prompt. So I'm going to take that same prompt. I'm going to try that example with the regular DALL-E version 2. And then we're going to also see it how it works with the new version 2 experimental. So as we can see, and that has also been a question of concern with DALL-E specifically, is that it can produce photographic renders, but it's also a little bit messed up in its own example. Like just taking the example from the homepage, we can see that these kind of look like they are made of Play-Doh, to say the least. But now I'm going to take the same exact prompt, and now I'm going to switch to the experimental version. Clearly, there is something working right with DALL-E 2 experimental version. But as we can see from the previous images, if they look like broken Play-Doh, these actually do give the intentions of what it was, which is a 3D render of a cute tropical fish in an aquarium on a dark blue background, digital art. It's actually much better than what the images were given on the main homepage. So there is some promise to this new model. I think this is a promising direction for the future of DALL-E, and it's also going to be an interesting look with its competitors like say Midjourney and also Stable Diffusion now that it's having ControlNet. Obviously DALL-E has outpainting, but I'm not going to be working with that today. That's going to be another video for itself. Outpainting with the DALL-E 3 model version 2 experimental. Today I'm just going to take a couple of prompts and I'm going to see how they match and work with. I'm going to now try something which is the interior of a room. I'm going to obviously start with the existing model, that is version 2, and I'm going to see how that gives us a render. The existing version 2 is very promising. Without even going into the next version, we can already see this could be used by real estate, and this could be used for like different kinds of situations if you are trying to get some interior images. It's not bad. There are obviously certain quirks here and there which could be fixed in Photoshop or other softwares, but overall this is pretty strong right from the get-go. Now I'm going to switch my model and I'm going to again do the same exact prompt, but this time with the experimental model. Well, if the first one was good, this one is everything that is photographic, because this is just looking like a photograph. Like if I don't tell you who did this, you would say this was taken by a photographer. The lighting, even the cushions, to that extent, if I zoom in on even the table, well, if I had to nitpick, maybe some of the arrangements on the table are not as per, but otherwise the overall interior, the lighting, and even the fabric texture, much stronger. The background, the way that there is a differentiation between the foreground and the background, overall pretty strong. For the interior example that we can see over here, I think this one feels a little more blurry, if I were to say so, and this one just feels a lot more photographic and a lot more sharper. The lights on the right is in the right place, and it just makes more sense. It's also very interesting to see that it's giving different aspects and different angles. Not to say that the version 2 did not give us that, but overall it just felt a little muddy, if I were to say so. This one just feels a lot more clearer, having the same elements in the same exact prompt. So now that I have done an interior, I'm gonna go ahead and now do one that is gonna be a car. Now these images, without having seen what the version the experimental version is going to give us, are pretty good. I mean, you do understand what is the model of the car, and you do feel like it is a strong aesthetic, but obviously it's pretty muddy, as I had said about the interior image. The overall model of the car is distinguishable. However, it doesn't feel photographic by the longest. Probably the background is photographic, but the car itself just doesn't sell for it. So this, not so much. Now let's switch the model, and I'm going to do the same exact prompt, and there you have it. Quite the improvement. Is it perfect? Not by the long shot, but that's why it is experimental. But if I am comparing it directly with the existing model, that's version 2, it is by far much more better. It in fact even incorporates the logo, which is a nice touch, because the first one did not quite do that. It just brushed it off. It didn't even add that there. But here it's making the effort to make us understand, and then later on you can post process and work on that. But if you see, it's even giving a nice golden light, which is an after storm kind of a golden light, which is really nice. The light over here, I don't know, that's pretty wonky because it's like bouncing off. Again, these are some nitpicking that's been done over here, but we must see and appreciate the overall compared to the existing model. If this is the direction that they're going to go with, this is simply just immensely staggering and mind-blowing. I'm going to take a few more examples with different categories. I'm going to try one with now a street style photograph, and I'm going to see how that would work with, again, both the models. Trying out these various different genres and different styles will also help us assess how this specific new model is actually going to stand against other, like mentioned before, competition, and also how it will stand against its own, which is the existing version 2. So now, as we can see over here, this has always been a struggle with DALL-E, even when I have been working on my own, that it can be pretty bad, if not just weird. And as we can clearly see, that's exactly how it is. Without creating any other variations, I'm not doing that. I'm just adding the very first rolls. So just from that, we can see it is not the best, and none of them are actually salvageable. Unlike the ones that with the car example, even for version 2, these were still salvageable, but when it comes to street style photos, probably the last one could be salvaged for something, but the other three are just we can work with that. Now let's do the same thing. Now comparing to version 2, I think this could go straight on social media or content. Yes, you would need some work, but like I said in the previous one, it was not salvageable. Here we can almost look at and even think about like using some of these if we wanted to for whatever purposes. Obviously there are a few kinks here and there, like the nose and the glasses over here, and the fingers. Fingers have always been a problem, not just for DALL-E, but even for Midjourney. But otherwise, there is really a good jump from the Model 2 when it comes to street style. I mean, looking at these images and then going back to these images, we can see that there is a good emphasis on the red, given that I did mention it, but it was not as prominent in version 2. But in the experimental model, it is really eminent that they've just pushed it. So that is something that's really notable. Overall, it's pretty good. I'm going to do one more face, and then I'm going to switch to landscapes, and I want to see how DALL-E's, both of them can handle landscapes and other different styles. So again, the eyes, always I have seen in DALL-E specifically that the eyes are not the best, but obviously this one is really nice. Version 2, it's promising. Now I'm going to switch to the new model, but then when I look at these images, one thing I can appreciate is how it's giving us a specific emotion. However, it's not quite finished is what I would say. I feel like most of the images that come out from the current existing DALL-E model needs many variations and many tweaks before you can actually finesse it. It almost feels like the early days of generative AI when artwork just felt more primitive. At the speed at which AI is going, it needs to be more and more mature. Now we're going to look at the experimental one. Clearly, this one just blows it off, because this one just looks like it's well finished. Even the face and the contour details are just beautiful. The light looks amazing. There's a beautiful depth of field, and the expression in the eyes are just on point. So clearly there is some magic happening over here, which is just beyond comprehension, and I can't wait for this to actually come out and for everybody to check it out and go crazy. Then I think it's going to be a real competition, because people will have choices to make. DALL-E has always been more photographic, and with this new model, it's clearly evident that that's the direction that they're really trying to push themselves. I mean, we can see that, especially given with these. All of these look like they were half-baked, but with the new model, we can see that they're really trying to solidify it. How much of this will be added? I don't know, but I think if they make it more and more stronger, I think the days ahead for DALL-E looks even brighter. As mentioned, I'm going to be adding some landscapes. I'm going to be making some landscapes for version 2. Here we have version 2. A landscape, a completely different shift of style and genre. So far, I was just checking on different portrait styles and even full body street style kind of photographs. But now I'm just looking at a landscape. Again, like I mentioned in the previous one and the ones before, the version 2 is good if you want to do multiple iterations, and if you want to get somewhere, you might be able to find yourself with a good render. However, the first rolls just never seem to satisfy with version 2. I wouldn't say the same for version 2 experimental, because they don't seem to disappoint so far. And like I said, they don't disappoint. Again, you will need some work over here. These are not photographic, more illustrative, if not painterly like, but these are more clear. I mean, you do understand the intention and the overall motif of the images, as opposed to over here, it's a little more vague, almost abstract. However, you can still understand what's going on. This one just sets the stage. Clearly, there is this humongous difference in these two models. There is a huge bump up from where they were to where they are and where they're going to be going. This new model is really looking up to a strong start, and yeah, it's now time for some food photography generation. So I'm going to try some food photography generation. Pretty bland, but it gets the job done. Model 2 gives all the necessary elements together, but it's like a really badly taken photograph, totally muddy. And this is not something I wouldn't even look at if it was on a menu. So that's how the Model 2 interprets avocados and eggs and tomatoes and basically a fruit salad of sorts. But now I'm going to try and do the new model. Clearly there is humongous difference. For what once one looks like a bad photograph, this one, it's not the best, but it's a good start. I think there is good potential. So it is safe to say that this model is, when released, gonna be a really strong game changer for the whole DALL-E platform, because I think looking at some of the examples that were really strong, we can actually already see some startling differences from its predecessor, which is the existing model. Just a simple prompt, and this is how we can get it. Now, if I take some of the old work that I did, you would also see the same thing over there. This was done using the new model, but if I do the same exact one with the current model, it doesn't look so good. Compared to the previous one that we just now saw, it also evokes the exact emotion that we were going for, which is femme fatale. And when I put femme fatale over here, this doesn't do that, and it's also having a couple of issues with its eyes. So I think there is a lot of fix and a lot of good things that's happening, because I think the eyes are really looking well this time around. The face and the overall contours are looking really good. I'm gonna now just go really quickly over some of the images that are on the home page, and I'm going to try and see what we can try from here. I'm going to try this first in the existing model and again compare it with the new model. Pretty standard. I want to see what more can it add with the new model. There are some subtle nuances and details. I think it's just refining itself more and more. With all the examples that I'm seeing that are the new model, we can clearly see that there is a finer refinement, whether it's a photographic image or whether it's an illustrative or it's a painterly. There is a bump up in the overall rationale of the model, basically, from the first one. What feels like half done now just feels like it's really ramping it up, and it's almost equivalent to the version 4 that's running on Midjourney. I'm going to put this intricate prompt, and I want to see how both the models fare. So far, I haven't seen the new model failing as much. Obviously, if you want to nitpick, you can, but if you just generate using the first 4 images, I think the new model really has tremendous potential. But let's just go ahead and do this one. I mean, this is purely abstract as opposed to what I had in the prompt. So I guess it is giving me a vague idea of what I need. Like I said, it's usually half-baked. If you do a bunch of rolls, you can get yourself some really good results with DALL-E. That being said, I'm going to try with this very promising new model because I really have high hopes in general. Just looking at the blanketed number of images that we've done so far today, I have some really high hopes with this new model because I think this would look really nice. And now we can clearly see this is a difference like night and day. Where that felt more abstract, this clearly you can see that they are trying to add the more nuanced details and even the small intricacies. A bonus point for this new model, because this was not something that is an easy thing to add as a prompt. And the fact that from this, it was able to give me this is a bump up. I mean, faces and everything is one thing, but to go from something like this to really solidify it and make it like an ornate, almost like a figure piece is a prop up. So that's something that's really nice. Again, one thing I want to keep noting here is that these are just the first iterations of each of the prompts through multiple different categories and different genres, just to test out and get the lay of the land with you as to how this new model would fare when it comes out for the public. But I'm just like going around and seeing all the different versions and different kinds of things. So as you can see, I have done today is a complete comprehensive understanding and a deep dive, different comparisons with DALL-E and the new model of DALL-E, and just to see how they work up. Most were a hit, but some were a miss, and that's okay. I guess that's why it's an experimental version. With that said, I'm going to be wrapping up this video, but also do not forget to check out my newsletter, which I publish every once a week, where I add all kinds of things like fashion, philosophy, photography, and all things for the future of AI as a creative. So whether it is the newest movies or the newest trends in AI, you can have it all covered with my newsletter. And if you're interested in other interesting things, you can find all the links down below. Also, don't forget to check out the other videos on Midjourney, and also just check out the other video that is going to come out in the next few days for my AI Art Wars, where I'm going to be comparing DALL-E against Stable Diffusion and Midjourney. But until then, see you next time.